he's the shove-it man. Oh, he's the shove-it man.
Alright, Shove It Squad, I'm back again with a potential new series. I always said that when Ring Ka King was over, I would start a new series reviewing TNA from the very start. Honestly, I did want to make one about Dadana Dan, that South African / Indian promotion, but I haven't been able to come up with the goods. So if anyone has every episode, please contact me. I'm not interested in recording grainy footage from streaming sites. So we'll see how this goes for now. Let me know in the comments if you're feeling this or not. And we're doing 2 episodes here. I tried to make it into 3, but there was honestly too much to cover. Hopefully we'll be introduced to some new characters along the way though. To give a small backstory first of all, before this event took place, an obese man broke the ring in a dart match. They were unable to delay the show and they had to frantically flip the show around. The show starts out and Don West is wheeled down the aisle to hype up the crowd. He then brings out his co-host Ed Ferrara, who kills the hype of the crowd. Ed comes out looking like one of Jeff Hardy's stoner friends and he says that it's all about TNA, and he's not talking about wrestling, brother. Mike Tenay is also there to talk about the need to respect wrestling history. He also hypes up the Gauntlet for the Gold match to crown the first NWA TNA champion tonight. Next up out comes some NWA legends. Ricky Steamboat gets the best reaction and he has the belt with him. They talk about how important the belt is for ages. It's crazy that this was the first ever TNA segment. They didn't really continue to honour this tradition, did they? Steamboat said he'll be the special referee for the final part of the match tonight. Then, for the first time, out walks Slapnuts. Get used to it, he's one of the main characters around here. You're going to be seeing a lot more of him. Jackie Fargo tells him that he doesn't like him, and tells Jarrett he will have to start from number 1 tonight. Just so we all get our feel of Jeff Jarrett, they're putting him at number 1. Ken Shamrock stamps out and says that the match tonight will suck, and says that he'll win. A man who looks like Elvis suddenly appears in the crowd, and they go berserk. Paul also says that the match tonight will suck. Great hype for the main event, guys. Jarrett tells them all to shove it and then he threatens Jackie Fargo. In the back, Goldilocks is with Puppet the Midget Killer. He says we need to start TNA with a midget match because they're the real stars of wrestling. However, that match isn't first because the first match is a 6-man tag match. It's the team of AJ Styles, Low-Ki and Jerry Lynn versus the Flying Elvises. Or the Flying Elvis Impersonators as they're called here. Their theme is so great that I regularly use it for my intros. It's Sonny Siaki, Estrada and Jimmy Wayne Yang. Jerry Lynn controls most of the early match as the veteran. Warrior then gets in and the Elvises dominate him. Styles then hits the first ever inverted DDT in TNA. Jerry Lynn hits the cradle pile driver and everyone starts hitting big moves. Low-Ki accidentally takes out his own partner. Jimmy Wayne Yang then dives from the top and pins him for the 3. Jimmy Wayne Yang is the first TNA winner and AJ Styles is the first loser. Who would have thought it? The second match is straight after. Oh, it's the midget match. It's Hollywood versus Tio. The crowd are actually really into this match for some reason. Hollywood hits a big splash but only gets a 2. Tio retaliates by hitting a bad looking senton for the 3. Not my favourite match in the history of wrestling. Jeff Hardy's fake stoner friend is now in the ring with Don West talking about a lingerie battle royal on the next show. I can feel the hawk flapping above my head ready to censor. They bring out Francine from ECW and a bunch of other girls. Mickie James is also here as Alexis Lurie. She looks properly young. We also get to see Taylor Vaughn. Get used to this character, she'll be playing a role over the next few shows. I don't know why they were so fascinated with her. She looks like a man in drag to me. The winner of the match next week will be crowned Miss TNA. Francine calls Don West fat and says that she's the most important one there. Elektra from ECW blames her for bankrupting ECW, and this causes them to fight. What a strange thing to fight over. It's not as if Francine did do that, why did she take it so personally? Ah, Feather just hit me in the face. The Hawk has arrived. Let me just open the window and knock him out. To the back, and Goldilocks is interviewing Mortimer Plumtree, who talks about how he keeps slaves, and it's just pretty weird really. I wish I could smack him one with that cricket bat. He reveals his tag team, the Johnsons. It's 2 wrestlers dressed as penises called Richard and Rod. Get it? They will face Psychosis and Cowboy James Storm, who in his younger years takes the whole cowboy thing a lot more seriously. What a weird team. Look at those cap guns.
Do not bring those cap guns to the ring with you tonight.
Cap guns? What are you talking about, cap guns? Woo! It's going down in Tulsa tonight!
Just a few weeks before this, Storm had an amazing match with his future partner Chris Harris on the Indies, and that essentially got them both hired by TNA. A lovely lady then randomly comes out. There's not much to say, the penises win and then referee Slick Johnson gives that lady some money. Goldilocks is backstage with the Dups. They're a hillbilly tag team featuring the future Trevor Murdoch. They are bowed up and stand up, or was it shut up? Get used to these guys, they're going to be main characters. Next up, a couple of NASCAR nerds come out. I'm not sure how big these guys would have been in 2002 America, but they do get a decent reception. I've heard that NASCAR is popular down south, where TNA is normally at. They're interrupted by Ron the Truth Killings, who is billed as K-Crush at the time. He says he's sick of the race drivers because they're supposed to be a wrestling show. I agree of truth. He plays the race card and says that his kind are athletes and Hermie Sadler's kind are just sat in the car getting fat. Truth tries to attack the guys, but Brian Lawler, the former Grandmaster Sexay, makes the save. Jerry's Kid then challenges Truth to a match next week. The nerdiest little security team then take Truth away. What a bunch of little goons. Backstage, Slapnuts is being a dick to Jackie Fargo. A match up next is Christian York and Joey Matthews, who are two more of Jeff Hardy's stoner friends, and they'll be taking on the Ducks, who are accompanied by their girlfriend, Fluffed Up. They actually have a really nice entrance song, you'd be surprised. Christian York is more impressive than he was in his recent run in TNA, and when I say recent I mean about 7 years ago. The match ends when Fluffed Up knocks Christian York off the top, and Shut Up pins him just like that. Get used to seeing the Ducks. Next up, Toby Keith comes out to sing about how great America is. This goes on for a while and I drifted off. I'm rudely awakened by Slapnuts. That is one horrible wake-up call. Jarrett doesn't like the song and says that it's time to hurry up and have the main event gauntlet match. We recently watched this match with a focus on Scott Hall for Ring of the Hawk, but tonight it's not about him. Elvis can shove it. We start out quite hot with the two ex-WCW stars Jeff Jarrett and Buff Bagwell. Buff is destroying Jeff, but then he chucks Buff out just like that. I expected Buff to last a bit longer. This match is going to be all about Slapnuts, isn't it? After a few ex-WCW jobbers are eliminated by Jarrett, he gets slowed down by the Puerto Rican star Apollo. This is a match that also has Del Rios in it, the fake Scott Steiner. I still can't believe this. We also see the debut of Abyss here. He's wrestling as a young, goofy Big Show called Justice. Joel Gertner also introduces his new team, the Rainbow Express, and says, "Get your asses ready for Bruce." This was one of the early bad TNA gimmicks. They were portraying gay men, and they were heels, and they were used distastefully. Rick Steiner is also in the match, but there isn't any notable interaction with the fake Scott Steiner. Well, why would they bother doing it then? Rick Steiner is a house on fire and gets a few eliminations. The other notable player in this match is Malice, who is the former Wall from WCW. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge that last time. Please don't threaten to force me to do a Wes Briscoe Ring of the Hawk video as punishment, please. Anyway, he clears the ring nicely. Hall's obviously in the match too, but you already knew that. Toby Keith gets involved and Jarrett gets eliminated. Thank God he's gone. Someone in the comments last time said this match is like hitting the random button on a Royal Rumble Attitude Era video game. That statement is proved correct as Gangrel comes out. There's a surprising lack of ECW guys on this show, but Steve Corino's here. It's funny how he didn't last long in TNA, but the majority of the old ECW roster would be here sooner or later. After all the eliminations, it comes down to a straight up match between the final two, Ken Shamrock and Malice. They have a pretty good back and forth, with Malice refusing to tap out for ages. Eventually Ken Shamrock does win though, and he's crowned the first NWA TNA champion. Of course this show has to end with Slapnuts and Toby Keith though, because that's more important than Ken Shamrock winning the title. Scott Hall protects the NWA guys and will fight Jarrett next week. The real surprise for me on this show is how well Malice did, and it's intriguing to see if he'd be pushed over the future shows, because he was built like a main eventer here. Interesting first show. They were certainly throwing a lot of stuff at the wall to see what stuck. The show obviously doesn't have a clear identity yet. Let's move on to the second show. And we start out with Slapnuts. Who else? Jarrett calls out Hall, Toby Keith and Jackie Fargo, and he'll be fighting Hall right now. Several of these early NWA TNA matches are ones that we've seen on Ring of the Hawk recently because we've been doing a lot of the older TNA stuff. Hall is still in decent shape here, and despite having over 20 TNA matches, this was probably his best one right at the start. It gave me hope that Hall would have a second wind in wrestling. Hall wins the match, but the ending is kind of stupid because Toby Keith blatantly interferes, but the ref just doesn't care. Ooh, a feather just hit me in the head because the Hawk is circling above, and he's here to censor the segment coming up in a minute, the Lingerie Battle Royal. I know, I'm sorry that disappoints you all, it's not my fault. Next up is a man who broke the ring before the first show. Accompanied by the brown-eyed girl, it's Cheeks. I wonder if this is going to be as bad as legend says. His opponent is a bold jobber who looks like one of the Mitchell brothers. This is a slow match as you might expect. Cheeks is exhausted and he can barely get back up after being knocked off his feet. The lady from the first video also comes back out, and she comes to talk to JB, and then he pays her. Cheeks wins with a splash. Oh, that is disgusting. Get him off my TV. I don't ever want to see him again. The next match is K-Crush versus Brian Christopher with the two NASCAR drivers. Brian Christopher is the main event face. This really doesn't last long, Shove It Squad. Brian Christopher is winning until he tries to go for a second bulldog, and then Truth shoves him in the corner. Truth is a bad guy, but he still has some pretty fun offense. You don't have to be boring just because you're bad. Brian Christopher does a cringy hawk up. It's just embarrassing. And then he takes the truth out of a boot to the side of the skull. Christopher hits a stunner, and then for some reason he mocks Stone Cold. This was probably the first shot at WWE TNA made on TV, and it's only their second show. The two NASCAR guys get involved, but for some reason it's a no DQ. Christopher goes for the hip hop drop and then nails it for the 3. Pretty decent match. I just hate it when there's interference right in front of the ref with no punishment. It takes me out of the match. Next up is the Bikini Battle Royal for the title of Miss TNA. The winner will also get a TNA contract. Borash announces all the girls as the wrong people, and then he just gives up and stops. So basically we just got a bunch of random women out here and no one knows who they are. So the match starts and they're all fighting in their pyjamas. Oh god, sorry guys, that noise can only mean one thing. The hawk has arrived. I'm really sorry that I have to deprive you guys of these ladies. YouTube will flag my video as 18+, and strongly restricts who can watch my videos. They'll make you sign in. It's a new thing they brought in last month to try and remove sexual content from YouTube. We gotta protect all the stupid little children. All the girls team up on Francine. That can never be a bad thing. Francine lies on the ground crying. She really wanted that TNA contract, didn't she? Jeff Hardy's fake stoner friend consoles her, and then he thinks that she's gonna pleasure him. Just like that, right there. What an idiot. Why would he think that? And then she attacks him. I would strongly advise you to get Impact Plus just so you can see this. Even though he censored it, the Hawk strongly approves of Francine. The man in the blonde wig, Taylor Vaughan, wins, and now she has a contract. Francine belts her after the match because she's a bad loser. This match is exactly what you would think of when you talk about women in wrestling in the early 2000s. Goldilocks is backstage interviewing Apollo, but she's then interrupted by a woman called Bobcat. I have no idea who she is, but she said that they should be focusing on David Young instead. Is she high? Nobody wants to see this fat middle-aged cab driver. Nobody. And Apollo and David Young are out next for a match. Bobcat is the manager of David Young. Okay, it's bothering me. I had to look it up. I knew I recognised her name. She was previously in the WWF. She actually won the hardcore title. She was also married to Al Snow for a brief time. I'm rambling. This match isn't very good. I just keep thinking about how David Young kind of looks like a fat Jesse Pinkman. Bobcat is trying to strip Jeremy Borash and the camera is barely focusing on the match. David Young surprisingly controls Apollo, but this feels like a dark match that shouldn't have made TV. Apollo finally does something and hits a DDT. His offense is then ended straight away by a Jesse Pinkman spinebuster. Unfortunately for him, he's distracted by his manager. He then misses a moonsault and Apollo puts him away with a lovely move. He shouldn't have struggled so much to put him away though, it's David Young for God's sake. 90% of you aren't homosexuals, but there are 10% of you listening right now that might be, and that's okay, because all that matters is that you're all together watching the Hawk. It's the Rainbow Express again. They're supposed to be taking on Stand Up and Shut Up, but they say that they're not wrestling any of them alternative hippie lifestyle boys, and they won't wrestle homosexuals. Harris and Storm are walking along close by, and a TNA goon runs up to them and says that Storm and Harris need to fill in now. And ladies and gentlemen, this is how America's Most Wanted were born. Through homophobia. History right there. The commentary team argue about how disgusting the Rainbow Express's views are, but they haven't actually done anything to deserve that. They say that WCW forced them into the closet. One of them kisses the other's hand as Don West says, "Give me a break, they're making me sick." Lenny Lane looks like Chris Jericho from 1998. Jeff Hardy's fake stoner friend, who is meant to be the heel, sounds like the progressive one, as he talks about how everyone needs to stop focusing on the Rainbow Express's sexuality. Don West tells him that there's no place for them in the ring. Anyway, Harris and Storm win their first match together. Up next, Ricky Steamboat brings out Ken Shamrock and tells him about how he's joining an elite class of NWA champions. Shamrock is wearing sliders for some reason. Look, it's V Infuso. Shamrock is interrupted by James Mitchell, who's looking very smart by his standards. He calls the crowd in Alabama crackers, and then he says his disciples will control the championship. He then brings out one of his minions and out walks Slash. Ken Shamrock says he'll fight him right now for the belt, but instead Malice appears behind him in the ring and hits a huge chokeslam. Good to see the push of Malice continue. This guy is truly huge. The security team pull them apart and the match is set for next week. The main event tonight is a match to crown the first ever X Division champion. It's a double elimination match. You must be pinned twice to be eliminated. As soon as the pin happens, the next man on the outside will come in. Not seen one of these go down before. It's AJ Styles, who is still a bit of a nobody at this point. The crowd barely react to him. His theme music is Born and Raised in the USA. It's weird watching this back. He's taken on Psychosis, and also in the match is Loki/Warrior and the veteran Jerry Lynn. This should be a good one. Psychosis has a much better leg drop than Grandmaster Sexay. Styles hits the Styles Clash after literally 30 seconds and pins him for the first fall. Low-Ki is in now. Lovely Hurricanrana and the commentary team lose their mind over it. Styles almost hits the Styles Clash again, but Low-Ki gets out of it. Low-Ki cripples AJ from the corner, but the submission doesn't count as Styles is on the ropes. Styles hits a German suplex then rolls through into a face buster and he puts Low-Ki away. Jerry Lynn is in next, who hits a cradle power driver to put AJ away. Psychosis is straight in and he nails a dropkick. Jerry Lynn gets sent to the outside and then gets smashed in the face by Psychosis diving over the top. I love this next move by Psychosis. It's a top rope spinning leg lariat, a thing of pure beauty. Lynn catches Psychosis with the dropkick and then hits a cradle power driver and he's out. Low-Ki's in next. Low-Ki hits the top rope Hurricanrana but Lynn rolls through, but it's only a 2. Low-Ki gets decapitated across the ropes by the Lynn leg drop. Then there's a bit of a botch. I don't know quite what they were going for. Maybe Low-Ki was going for the key crusher. It looked painful though. Lynn puts Low-Ki away with another cradle power driver. It's now down to AJ Styles to take on Jerry Lynn. But Jerry Lynn hasn't been pinned at all at this point. This match has been non-stop for 15 minutes. Styles finally manages to connect with the Styles Clash for the 3. But it's not over because Jerry Lynn has only been pinned once. This match is awesome. I wonder why they stopped doing them this way. I guess it's because they last for a while and TNA had to cram in more and more stupid stuff on the shows as the years went by. These guys are just crazy good, their cardio game is insanity. Styles hits the inverted DDT on the outside. It wasn't perfect, but it was cool to see. I can't believe that they gave the X Division guys this amount of time. When people talked about the X Division dying, they weren't lying when you compare it to this. Everyone thinks it's over when Lynn plants AJ on his face, but he kicks out at the very last millisecond. Both men are trading big moves back and forth. The biggest move eventually wins when AJ hits a spiral tap on Lynn. What a match, round of applause to you guys. Probably the best X Division match I've seen, other than maybe the Unbreakable Freeway. Find it and watch it. It's like 20 minutes non-stop with no breathers. Styles wins his first TNA gold. I bet the fans will react when he comes down the ramp next time. After that match, I can't really remember the rest of the show, but I walk away feeling like it was amazing because of this match. And that's it, 2 shows down. If you want more, there's no need to frown. Just come back to me and let me know you want to see more. And when it comes to ideas, I'm open like a door.